It's Friday, 30th September. Welcome to Wycombe TV News. I'm Inia and I'm one of the 182 New Year 7 students who've just joined Wycombe High.
Just like me, I'm Khadija and I'm also in Year 7. And here are this week's Wycombe High headlines.
Time's up. How much is too much when it comes to social media screen time and your mental health?
Heads up, we talked to Mrs. Pilkington about the day Her Majesty came to Wycombe High.
All the faces, seeing all these faces, people I haven't seen for years, it was lovely.
Plus, with the return of Highly Talented, our showcase for Wycombe High's musically standout students. But first, the rise in popularity of smartphones and social media among children and young people could be damaging their health and development. That's according to a new medical study which was presented recently at a meeting of doctors and scientists in Rome.
Meanwhile, Wycombe High School has been invited to take part in a study by the University of Birmingham that aims to evaluate the effects of mobile phones use on people's mental well-being, physical activity, sleep, and classroom behaviour and attainment in secondary schools.
Most adolescents own a smartphone and many use social media. Smartphones and social media can be beneficial for mental well-being, but this depends on how they are used. Schools can influence how pupils use their phones and social media during the school day. Some schools allow pupils to use their phones and access social media. Some schools allow pupils to use their phones and social media for learning. Some schools restrict phone and social media use altogether. We want to know what the effects of these different school policies have on mental well-being.
So when it comes to screen time and the use of social media, what are the views of students here? Wycombe High TV News has been to find out.
Hi, I'm Zara, and today we're going to be finding out what people think about social media.
Hi, my name is Dia.
Hi, my name is Ashita.
And today we'll be asking Year 7 students
about how much time they spend on social media.
Do you like social media?
Yes, but it can get to people's heads sometimes.
And does it affect our mental health?
I think it does, so sometimes it's best to just stay away from it.
I only use social media for Teams and school-related things.
It's the same with me. I only use Teams for school studies.
What do you think about social media?
I think it's very helpful for everyone to access information.
And do you think it should be allowed in school?
Yes, because then all the students can access and learn different topics and subjects.
I think it can be really helpful sometimes.
And what do you think it does for our mental health?
I think that it would be okay, just as long as you don't go on it too long.
How much time do you spend on social media?
I don't spend too much time on social media because I think it's bad for your mental health.
What do you think about social media?
I think it's a way to express your feelings.
And do you think it should be allowed in school?
Yes, but if you're being rude about someone or something, don't.
How much time do you spend on social media?
I don't spend too much time on social media, as I think studies are important, as I want to be a doctor when I grow up.
This is what Wycombe High students thought of social media. Personally, I agree. Social media shouldn't be used that much and we should all be focused on studies. What do you think?
I use social media quite a lot, so I disagree.
I love my mobile phone. Now, this week, at their conference in Liverpool, the Labour Party voted to include a commitment to introducing proportional representation in its next manifesto. Of course, most, if not all of our current sixth formers will be eligible to vote in the next general election. So what do they think about this proposal for electoral reform? This report from Jessica and Jemima in Year 12.
Hi, I'm Asma.
Hi, I'm Jemima.
And today we're asking people what they think of proportional representation. What do you think?
I think that proportional representation is much better than the first past the post system we currently have in place.
So what do you guys think of proportional representation?
Well, we think proportional representation is a good system because it does give rise to smaller parties and allows them to have more of a say in government, and also it does proportionally represent the people, so it is more democratic.
However, I'd say we also discussed the fact that on the flip side it's not as good because it gives rise to extremist parties.
What do you think about proportional representation? Well, I think if you're talking about it in the UK, it's something we need to consider doing. A few years ago, we had the chance to have a referendum and we looked at alternative voting instead. And lots of people in the public didn't understand that, including myself. And so therefore it didn't go through because people didn't vote for that. So I actually think the time is right now in the UK to have PR.
What do you think about proportional representation?
I think it's definitely a good idea, but there's a lot more cohesion when there's just one party in power.
I have a mixed opinion on proportional representation. On the one hand, I think it's quite good that everyone gets represented in an equal way to how they voted. But on the other hand, more extremist groups, it's easier for them to get into the parliament.
So Jemima, what do you think?
I think that proportional representation is a good system, as more people are going to have a say in how the government policies are formed.
That report from Jessica and Jemima, who are just 2 of the 46 new students who joined Wycombe High earlier this month for their A-level studies. Now, as our regular viewers will know, one amazing aspect of Wycombe High experience is the fact that there are more than 100 clubs and societies on offer, which might explain why it was a packed house at last Friday's Freshers' Fair.
I've been sent on a mission. Hi, I'm Anya in Year 11, and I'm here at this year's Freshers' Fair to see what clubs and societies are available for this year's sixth form. So, what is Philosophy Club and what do you do in it?
Well, Philosophy Society is the best club in school. It's on Thursday lunchtimes, and we do lots of thinking, obviously. Also, we watch The Good Place and we analyse the philosophy in The Good Place. You can bring food, you can eat, you can bring all your friends, and we're making a podcast. So if you want to get on Spotify, on Apple Music, on your favourite podcast provider, come down to Philosophy Society and you can get in there, you can have your views heard. It's really great.
And what types of philosophy do you look at? Do you look at certain areas or do you look at everything?
We look at everything, yeah. So obviously, as we're Wycombe High School, we have a particular focus on female philosophers and philosophers that aren't just white men that everyone's always heard of, you know. Obviously, to study philosophy, you do have to cover, like, classical philosophers. But we try to cover all bases. So if you come, there's something for everyone, I promise.
So tell us a little bit about your club.
So this is Disability Pride Club, and it's for all people, disabled, abled, people questioning things about themselves, and it's to talk about disability pride, which I think is a really wonderful thing. And it's to support people in schools so they can help get the access that they need and support each other.
Thank you, that sounds really cool. Whenabouts is Disability Pride Club?
It's at Tuesday in M105.
When they're talking. So tell me a little bit about your club.
So I run Bollywood Dance Club, which I just teach dance, and we have this opportunity to dance in the show Highlights this year. So please join. We run it in Friday lunchtimes at PA1.
So can you tell me a little bit about Classic Society and what you do?
So Classic Society is obviously all about classics. Each week we have a presenter who volunteers. Sometimes we have teachers do presentations on things that interest them. Sometimes we have students. So we have all sorts of things, anything from ancient pranks, ancient mathematics. We have, some more highbrow stuff. So recently we just had a presentation from Mr. Walpole on Stoicism and Epicureanism, which is two kind of opposing Greek philosophies. But yeah, it's really anything. You don't need to know anything. We go over all the basics, and it's just a really nice place to discuss ancient history, Latin, classics, religion, anything like that.
Thank you very much.
There are some terrific speakers lined up this year for students at Wycombe High School. Luminaries like the serial entrepreneur film director and global speaker Mina Fombo, who gave a series of students' talks last week about her ongoing campaign for diversity, representation and inclusion. Our reporter Fatima was there.
If in your school space someone says something or does something which discriminates against you or is offensive to you, you need to ask yourself, one, is this person my friend? Did they just forget to update their software, yeah? Or did they do it unknowingly? Do I forgive them? Do I want to forgive them? If you choose that you want to do that, maybe you might want to go on the journey with them and give them another chance.
Hi, I'm Fatima and I'm here with Dr. Mina Fombo. We're here to talk about the importance of diversity and understanding equality. So, Dr. Mina, tell us a little bit about yourself and your work.
Yeah, so basically, I come from a family where I was fostered, so I have white parents, but I also have black Nigerian family members as well. My mum's Nigerian. So I grew up between this really mixed household. So I really care about talking about equality, talking about diversity, understanding nuance, and making sure that people have tools on both sides to manage discrimination, whether that's at school or at work or just out in the street. Okay, I'm going to ask everybody who is able to just stand up for me. I know.
It was really engaging. I think it's nice to have someone from the outside come and speak to us.
That was a great talk.
Absolutely. Now, last week, thanks to our lottery-funded archive team, we brought you a fabulous photographic look back at the visit to Wycombe High School of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 1994. It set the internet alight with former students and staff reminiscing royalty about this wonderful occasion. Among them was our former head teacher, Mrs. Muriel Pilkington, and our reporter Dea caught up with her on a video call from her holiday home in France.
Good morning, Mrs. Pilkington. Thank you for interrupting your holiday to talk to us today.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Can I start by asking you how Her Majesty's visit to Wycombe High School came about?
Well, what happened was originally in Wycombe there were two girls' high schools. There was Wycombe High and there was Lady Verney High. But the number of girls, the demographic number of girls at the time was dropping, and Lady Verney could not continue as a school, not because it was not a good school, it was a good school, but because they didn't generate enough money. And so I was approached in 1992, 2 years beforehand, as to whether the high school would be willing to enlarge to include the 300 girls that there were at Lady Verney. And we discussed it, we looked at the pros and cons, and we decided that it was better for Wycombe girls to be able to still go to school in High Wycombe. So we agreed. And so a programme of building was set about. That included what you have now, the sports hall, the drama studio, the Verney building, to enlarge the music, what was then the music centre, and it built a sports pavilion as well. So it was a lot of building. And so they employed an architect, they employed landscapers, both of whom were women, which is great. And we set about. Now, the building, the oldest buildings on your site were built in 1956, a long time ago. And they were opened by the then Duchess of Kent, Princess Marina. So we thought it would be really nice if we could approach the Lord Lieutenant of Buckinghamshire and ask if we could have the Duke and Duchess of Kent Duke or Duchess of Kent to open the new buildings. And eventually he phoned me and he said, I'm afraid the Duke and Duchess of Kent can't make it. And I thought, oh, that's a shame. But he said, would the Queen do? So I thought, would the Queen do? And so I said, oh, yes, please. So the point was that apparently there have been 3 other invitations for her to come to things in High Wycombe. And she'd decided that, or her office has decided that it would make a good visit to come to these 4 places. So she came to us first. Well, the effect, I was absolutely thrilled. The governors were absolutely thrilled. The staff were pleased. The girls were excited. And so a 2-year building project took place and everything had to be ready for the girls from Lady Verney to start in September 1994, and it was ready. We were, I mean, literally to the weekend before. The staff were all in, bless them, all putting all the books back, and we were all putting the desks back and everything. But it did work, and we got a lot. Also, anything I saw, and I said, well, now the Queen might look at that. And the architect would say, yes, she might. We'd better paint it. So I got a load of stuff redecorated on the back of it. So that's the story.
Oh, wow. What sort of preparations did you and the school have to make before Her Majesty's visit?
Well, we got a lot of visits from people from the palace. A man called Sir Robert Fellows came to see us, and he told us what would happen and what we'd got to do. The deputy head at the time, who was called Miss Jewett, she's now called Mrs. Preston. She actually did the organisation because I was concerned that I must still do my job and keep the teaching and the learning and everything and welcome these new girls. So she did it. When it came to nearer the date, we had police come, security come, they photographed the site. We had to get a special toilet for Her Majesty in case she needed to use it, which was in the bottom of the Verney building. And we had to, it was, no, was it in the Verney building? Yes, I think it was. It was a disabled toilet anyway. And we had to isolate it, decorate it, put Malvern water in it for Her Majesty. And then the day before she came, the police or the security overflew the site with a helicopter, and they flew again the next morning. And if anything had changed, they would have cancelled the visit because they were terrified, obviously, of terrorist attacks. So on the day, what we did, all the girls came in and they stayed in their form rooms with their form tutors, and we set them competitions and quizzes. And then half an hour before the Queen was due, they all came outside, and it was not a nice day. It was damp, so they all had brollies up. It was a bit unfortunate, but by the time she actually arrived, thank goodness it had stopped raining. So she drove up exactly to the minute. I can't remember the time. It may well have been 11 o'clock. Her car was just fractionally early, so she parked in the car park and waited for 4 or 5 minutes, and then drove round to where the reception was.
Do you have any particular memories that still keep with you till this day?
Well, there are loads, but I'll tell you a couple of things. The first one was that one of the primary schools in Cressex had brought their pupils round to line the pavement in front of the high school to welcome the Queen, and there were crowds there, of course. And one of the officials said to me, why don't we bring those children into our car park? So we asked the security, and they said yes. So quickly, very quickly, these children rushed into the car park. And when the Queen arrived, there was one little boy who, as she appeared, thrust a bunch of flowers into her hand. He rushed forward and thrust these flowers into her hand, and she passed them to her lady in waiting. And obviously she then moved on. But afterwards, this is what I remember so well, we had a letter from a lady in waiting saying that Her Majesty the Queen didn't have time to say thank you to the young man who gave us some flowers. So could we please make sure that he knows that Her Majesty wanted to say thank you? So we took this letter round to the primary school, and the headmaster called the whole school into assembly. And he said to my site manager who took it round, he said, do you know that is the naughtiest boy in the school who brought this, who gave these flowers. Anyway, he called all the children together, and he said, I can't remember the child's name, but let's say it's Stephen. And Stephen stood up, he said, come forward. And Stephen came forward, his head hanging, thinking he was in trouble and was going to be told off in front of the whole school. And the headmaster said to him, I have a letter for you from the Queen. Can you believe it? And this little boy, he would be about 8, I should think, he just burst into tears. It was a lovely moment. And then the other moment, I think, was when the Queen was in the sports hall, and we'd got some flowers for her, which were going to be presented her by our oldest living pupil, who was about 90. And I said to the Queen, now, Your Majesty, no, you called her ma'am. You had to call her ma'am, rhyming with spam. I said, ma'am, there's an elderly member of our former pupils who would like to present you with the flowers. And she said, oh, I'll walk across. It's not fair to ask this lady to come, because it was quite a distance, to ask this lady to come across. And so she made me walk across with her, and she spent quite a long time talking to this elderly lady. And, you know, it was just such a nice thing to see.
And when the photographs unearthed by the school's archive team arrived and came out, how did you feel? What did you think of that?
It really brought it back. I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I remember that suit that I wore. I threw it away in the end, but it reminded me of the suit, which I was quite fond of. And all the faces of people, and seeing all these faces, people I haven't seen for years, it was lovely.
Oh, well, Mrs. Pilkington, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Do you know, it was an absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad that Wycombe High School is doing so well. I'm very proud of it still. I'm an old lady now. I think I'm the oldest surviving head, but I have a great interest in the school, and I look forward to meeting your new headmistress, whom I haven't met yet.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice day.
you very much. Take care.
You too.
What a wonderful lady. We are so lucky with our head teachers here at Wycombe High. Now, just before we go, I can tell you that last Friday's Jeans for Jeans raised a whopping £867.69. Thanks to Olivia, our student head of charities, and everyone involved.
Don't forget, you can catch up with all things Wycombe High 7 days a week via wycombehighschool.com and all of the school's social media channels. But we'll leave you this week with the return of Highly Talented, our musical showcase of some of the many gifted students here at Wycombe High. This week, Lottie in Year 13. Enjoy!
Have a great weekend. Goodbye.